This is Ocean Robbins. Hello, hello, hello. I'm so happy you're here. In just a few moments now, we're going to begin today's Whole Life Action Hour. If you are somebody who wants to take advantage of potent health insights, if you want to make healthy food and a healthy lifestyle the foundation for a healthy life, if you want to love foods that love you back, you're in the right place. In just a few moments now, I'm going to be joined by our special guest for this action hour, Robyn Openshaw. We're going to focus together on detoxification solutions and how you can make cleansing your body easy and effective. We host an action hour every month, typically on the first Saturday of the month. These are projects of Whole Life Club. It's a Food Revolution Network membership program. Whole Life Club members get premium access to all of these events, including the chance to submit questions, plus access to the recordings, the transcripts, and follow-up checklists. If you're not a member yet, you'll find membership details on the page, the broadcast page that you're watching on right now. If you're interested, make sure to stay to the end, because after this action hour completes, I'll tell you more about it and let you in on a special offer that's usually only available one day a month, and today is the day. We've got a theme today. It's detoxification with healthy living expert Robyn Openshaw, and we are ready to begin. So let's officially start now. I want to be very clear here that nothing about this event constitutes or in any way replaces the need for medical advice. We are offering education and our own best insights. But please use common sense. And remember, you should always consult a proper healthcare professional for any advice pertaining to treatment or response to any particular medical conditions or situations. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here. Again, I'm Ocean Robbins, co-founder and CEO of Food Revolution Network. Our focus today is detoxification solutions, how you can make cleansing your body easy and effective. And I'm just absolutely thrilled that we are joined for this hour by Robyn Openshaw. Robyn's an expert on whole food nutrition, on natural detoxification, and on living a high vibration life. You might know her popular website, greensmoothiegirl.com. Robyn's a former psychotherapist, a university professor. She is the author of 15 books. I just wrote one. I know it's a big deal. She's written 15, including bestsellers like Vibe, The Green Smoothies Diet, and 12 Steps to Whole Foods. She's also the host of a popular podcast, Vibe. Robyn's goal is to empower as many people as possible to cleanse away toxins and to enjoy ever-expanding health and happiness. Robyn, I am so happy you're here with us. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Ocean. It's a fun way to spend a Saturday morning.
Yes, it is. And thank you to all of our participants too. We are so grateful for you giving the most precious resource that you have, which is your time and your attention. We will use it well, and we want to help empower you to have the best, healthiest, most vibrant life possible. In this hour, I'm going to be asking Robyn questions that are on a lot of our minds, and I'm also going to share some specific questions that have been shared by our members in the Whole Life Club community. When we complete our time with Robyn, I'm going to introduce you to Whole Life Club. And if you're not already a member, I want to encourage you to stay on with us so you can learn more about it and what could be in it for you. And if you're so eager you can't wait, or you're curious and want to know more right away, or if you don't have the ability to stay with us to the end and you want to make sure to take advantage of the opportunity that's available today, there is a button on the broadcast page that lets you learn more about it at any time. Now, during this event, I want to encourage you to make use of the comments area at the bottom of the broadcast page. We've got staff that, with us right now to moderate. So if you hear anything particularly inspiring during this action hour, something you want to just harvest and share with everybody else who's joining, please go ahead and highlight it, share it in the comments area so everyone else can see it as well. Jumping right in now, Robyn, you have chosen to take a passionate interest in cleansing and in detoxification. Can you share with us what led you on this path and why is it so important to you?
Well, as a podcast host myself and a 25-year researcher, I talk to people all the time who have a similar story to mine, which is my own health challenges led me on a journey. Okay, not the first time you've heard that, I'm sure. And I was very, very ill in my mid-20s, and I had 21 diagnosed diseases. I had a giant tumor. I was losing my eyesight. I had high blood pressure. I had several autoimmune diseases, Hashimoto's, lots of thyroid and endocrine problems. And the thing that I discovered, to kind of jump to the end and then back up, the things that I discovered that radically changed my life and caused me to completely turn around my health, ditch all 21 diseases, get off all the medications. I was on everything from antibiotics to steroids. Didn't know I had a choice. Didn't know there were other options. What I discovered were two things. Number one, making the shift to a whole foods, plant-based diet. That was absolutely pivotal. And the other thing that I discovered is twice a year detoxing. And I did someone else's protocol, and it was life-changing. I mean, not only did I ditch like 15 pounds that I needed to lose, but I also restored my health in ways that were quite permanent. Now, I do think we live in a toxic world, and so we need to commit to doing this twice a year. We don't live in the same kind of world that our grandparents did. And so understanding how the human body detoxifies and giving some attention to that twice a year, eating super, super extra clean, and doing some protocols in addition to eating a very organic, entirely plant-based diet for that 26 days is life-changing. And we have had so much fun taking now, gosh, I think with all the folks who just came in, we're about 17,000 people now through the detox by the time we're done with this month.
Wow. And you've seen some pretty amazing results with those 17,000 people. Can you share a few of them? What's predictable? When people
what's predictable is, I mean, because we actually have a questionnaire at the end of it. So right now I have data on 13,000 people who've completed the program at the end of probably about February, because you can choose your start date. So we'll give them till the end of February before we pull them. What we know is that their average weight loss in 26 days is 12.5 pounds. Now that's an average. We've seen people lose 25 to 27 pounds. We don't make any claims about weight loss, and it's not a weight loss program, and it's not a diet. And you're not counting any calories, and you're not worrying about your grams of proteins, fats, and carbs. And FYI, you're eating a lot of carbohydrates. They are whole foods carbohydrates. They are not carbohydrates that cause diabetes. We are not trying to put you in ketosis. We are not trying to eliminate one macronutrient in favor of another. We're eating what people ate for thousands of years. Back before we were adding lots of chemicals to our foods and spraying them with glyphosate, et cetera. So 26 days is the amount of time it really takes, according to the best clinicians and researchers, to take you through the initial phase of cleansing the gastrointestinal tract and then taking you into kidneys and liver and gallbladder.
Great. Well, we're going to definitely get into the protocols and systems. But first, I want to talk about how the body is supposed to function.
Yeah.
So our bodies do an incredible job detoxing every moment of every day of our lives. Can you talk a little bit about when the body is working the way that it was designed to do? How does detoxification actually work?
Yeah, we really shouldn't have to do what I take people through for 26 days. It's really a modern problem that we have that has led to us having to really deconstruct what the body does and how we can optimize it. But imagine if we went back to the 1930s, when we had not only had our very first automobile, thanks to Henry Ford, let's say the Model T. Now, I'm not a car person, but let's just say it was a Model T. And right about the same time that cars were invented, we also had the Dust Bowl, right? We had the Great Depression, was kind of kicked off by the fact that there was no rain, and there was all this huge drought that dragged on for years and years and years. And if you know anything about that period of time, the land got super baked, and you couldn't plant, and you couldn't water anything because the ground was too hard, and there was no rain for years. And so people were choking to death. People were dying of respiratory diseases. And so I think of our need to detoxify, even though we do, just like you said, we do have detoxification systems. We have beautifully designed, amazing, highly effective elimination channels in the body. So why would we need to go to such trouble to focus on it twice a year? Well, imagine you're driving your Model T in the Dust Bowl and you never change your oil filter and you never change your air filter. That's sort of the situation that we find ourselves in. So we have, 80,000 chemicals approved for use in our environment, our air, our water. Even if we're eating an organic plant-based diet, we're doing so much better than everyone else. And we're seeing people all around us falling. And if you are on a plant-based whole foods diet, you are likely far healthier, especially if you've been doing it for many years, far healthier than all the people around you. And that's part of what keeps you committed to it. But you know what? The liver, the kidneys, the gallbladder, the lymphatic system, the blood, the GI tract, they get backed up. They get backed up because they were not designed. The Model T was not designed to be driving in the Dust Bowl. We weren't supposed to have this much dirt. Now that's a metaphor because it's not all dirt. A lot of it is, the vast majority is not particulate. The vast majority of it is chemical that we're being exposed to that causes some damage. So our fat stores, partly, it's not entirely that we're all overeating. It's that we have fat stores that are very hard to get rid of because they actually trap chemical toxins to keep them out of our critical organs of elimination and our other organs like our heart, our liver, kidneys. Our fat stores do a very important job for us. And if we want to get rid of those fat stores and get rid of them for good, we really have to address the toxicity issue because the fat is, in a way, an organ, and it actually is holding the toxins to keep those toxins, those chemical toxins, out of critical organs. So we should be glad we have those fat stores. However, like you, I would like to not have fat stores. And so we really have to look at the toxic body burden in order to be able to give our fat stores a pink slip and say, hey, thank you for the job you've done for me, but I don't need you anymore.
Right. Totally. I know a lot of people would like to hand out those pink slips. I sometimes think that our bodies are incredible at cleaning. They're like mops on the floor. And yet some of us our environment is like a bunch of muddy boots stomping around all day long. And over time, pesticides, hormones, antibiotics, heavy metals, chemicals, there are 1,400 chemicals in the US food supply on a regular basis: additives, colorings, flavorings, preservatives, most of which have never been tested for their long-term health impacts. And all of these toxins are not what our bodies were designed for. They're not native to our world or to us. And so some of them, our bodies do a pretty darn amazing job actually dealing with things that they weren't even designed for. But some of them can persist, can build up over time. And that's, of course, what we're talking about. Testing of umbilical cord blood in newborn babies has shown that it actually starts before we're born, because we actually absorb this stuff from in the womb. They have found over 200 synthetic chemicals in umbilical cord blood, some of them with carcinogenic potential. We don't entirely know what the effect of all these chemicals are on babies or on the rest of us. But there's a lot of evidence that some of these chemicals are tied to real health problems. So Robyn, when you think about, you've actually talked about the 7 types of toxicity. Can you tell us, what are they?
Well, one of the 7 types of toxicity is getting more airtime right now because we are so dramatically increasing in energetic pollution. Just here in Park City, Utah, where I live, they just rolled out the 5G network. And what that does is it increases electromagnetic pollution by 40 times. So we're 40xing the amount of chaotic frequencies that we're bombarding our body with. So you're probably familiar with the fact that if you've been following ocean robins for a while, then you know that we are being bombarded by plastics, that our water actually pulls plastics out of the water bottle, or you actually are going to absorb some from the container that the water was in.
Yeah.
Things like that. Volatile organic compounds, off-gassing from our carpet and our paint, et cetera. We won't get really super depressive about all the different types of chemical compounds, but I just want to mention that in addition to the glyphosate that's on our food, including, and the best we can do is eat organic, and I'm a huge fan of eating organic and eating the food as unprocessed as possible. But unfortunately, it's getting to the point where there's so much glyphosate in the air and the water that it's actually on our organic foods as well, which points to the fact that we want to keep our organs of elimination clean. We want to open up those pathways, and we want to optimize the output because, like you said, our bodies are not designed to assimilate or eliminate these chemicals well. Luckily, they do. You can get rid of heavy metals. Heavy metals would be another example of 7 types of toxicity. And heavy metals, once you stir them up, they're heavy. They kind of want to settle somewhere else. So optimizing how you actually bind to those heavy metals and remove them safely from the body is really important, because we have heavy metals coming from, if you're eating cheese. Did you know that cheese is one of the highest sources of our heavy metals toxicity? Our dental fillings, our amalgam fillings. I know that a lot of you are probably getting those replaced. Sushi, raw fish, another major source of carrying heavy metals into the body, where they then have a hard time getting out.
Yeah.
So these
And
are some
not
examples.
just raw. I mean, fish are at the top of long food chains. And so they tend to absorb the heavy metals. Little tiny fish eat algae, and they get a little bit, and they breathe it in the water, and they get a little bit, and then bigger fish eat them, and they absorb all of the smaller fish's lifetime of consumption. And a lot of that stores up in them, and it bioaccumulates up the food chain. This is true anytime you eat higher on the food chain. So even eating meat, you're absorbing toxins from whatever the cow or chicken ate over the course of its life. But with fish, they're really, really long food chains. And so that
did you see
big impact.
Fish is really an interesting one, because it's kind of the healthy animal protein. It has been out there and trending upward, and people have been taking deodorized, purified, pretty rancid fish oil for well over 30 years now. And now there are 2 major meta studies talking about the efficacy or lack thereof of the impact on heart disease of those fish oils. But I don't know if you saw the study that just came out recently that, and this was in the Pacific Northwest, which has been touted to be some of the cleaner waters, but a third party tested all kinds of fish that were harvested from Pacific Northwest waters, and they had extremely high levels of things, even like cocaine.
Wow.
High levels of cocaine in the fish for the very reason that you talked about, that phenomenon of the fish eats something dirty that eats something dirty that eats something dirty, and it actually builds up in the tissues. And so people who start to worry about the fact that we have organic produce, and I got my health back actually eating conventional produce. I was a young mom of 4 little kids. I was very ill. We were living on one income. We had a very strict budget, and I got well eating conventional produce. And that's not to tell you eat conventional produce. It's saying if that's all you can do, you're a lot better off to eat the produce and wash it than to eat the animals who've been eating that conventional produce, and now it's concentrated in their tissues that you eat.
Right. And if you have to choose between non-organic kale and an organic donut, go for the kale every time. My local Whole Foods market has so many things that I'm like, really? In a health food store? Seriously?
What has happened to Whole Foods Market? I just moved to Park City 4 months ago, and I was so excited to finally live near Whole Foods Market, because there wasn't one in the entire county I lived in another part of Utah. And I don't know if it's the fact that Amazon just bought it or what, but I walked through the front of the store and took a video of everything that's in the front of the store. And it's 100% junk food, but it'll have a sign that says, the donuts made with non-brominated flour.
Right.
Not good enough. Not good enough.
Yeah. Okay. So we all know that the number one top thing that we can do to detoxify is to not bring toxins in the first place. Right. I mean, and we're talking about some of those exposures that are obviously in our diet. This is a good reason to go towards organic and eat lower on the food chain, and especially avoiding fish and processed meats. And, by the way, if you are eating fish, then you want to go for the low mercury, lower heavy metal ones, which are like sardines, herring, mackerel, and wild salmon. But all of them can have contamination. But we also know that, and environmentally, you want to get away from plastic, and, You want to cook with avoid the non-stick pans, the Teflon pans, because those are pretty darn toxic. They can actually, there's some of them come with warnings not to have pet birds in the same room that you're cooking with them. You know, if it's bad, it doesn't, you've heard of the canary in the coal mine, right? And it doesn't take a coal miner to know that if it's lethal to birds, it's probably not good for you or me either. And there are extensive studies showing that at typical cooking temperatures, people are putting toxins into their air in their kitchen with typical nonstick pans. So I like the Ozeri Green Earth ones that are ceramic coated, or there are some, you know, that are enamel coated cast iron. If you want to use a pan, it's worth paying attention to make sure that you're not using the typical nonstick materials. We've gotten rid of plastic food storage containers in our house, plastic water bottles. We use stainless steel. These are all steps you can take. You can get away from toxic carpets and volatile organic compounds. These are all great, and these are the first place to start. And let's suppose that you're a typical human being who hasn't lived perfectly for your whole entire life. Maybe even currently you have some exposures to toxins from the air you breathe, from your environment, from your food, from your history, right? Okay, so what can we do? Let's talk about solutions, Robyn. And first I want to say that when people think about detoxing, usually we think about drug and alcohol recovery programs. That's the main use where the term comes from. Now, you use the term obviously in a different way, because you're not necessarily talking about drugs and alcohol. In what ways does your use of the term parallel to and differ from substance abuse recovery programs?
Yeah, it's actually surprisingly similar. First of all, getting people off of caffeine. You know, the first 13,000 detoxers we took through, we had a frustrating enough experience with just getting them off of caffeine that they would feel like the detox was causing their headaches, their lethargy, their decreased mood. And so now we require anybody who starts our 26-day program to be off of caffeine for a week first. And part of the reason is that we can really do a better job with the liver and gallbladder flush the longer that they're off of coffee with all of its acids. I mean, we're trying to shift the alkalinity in the body. We're trying to increase the pH. Even just a couple of tenths of point is very, very powerful for increasing output and decreasing inflammation, which is one of the goals with it. But it's been interesting since we have to tend to thousands of detoxers at a time every year at this time. We get to, actually, it's an honor and a privilege to watch their suffering from their toxic load. The amount of, and so because I'm a former psychotherapist and my specialty was not in drug and alcohol counseling, but some of my closest friends were and still are in that field, you know, watching people suffer as they come off of their sugar addiction. Okay, we starve out their sugar addiction in 4 days. After 4 days, nobody's talking to us about how they're losing their minds and wanting to face plant in their child's candy that they bring home from school anymore, because we have it nailed in the first 4 days that they actually lose their sugar addiction. So that should be hopeful to people. You know, if you literally do not eat any sugar for 4 days, your cravings are so minor compared to what they are when you're feeding that addiction every day, that it's not going to have you by the throat. So now we watch people come off of caffeine, and now they tell us what coming off of caffeine was like for a week. Not everybody has a dramatic reaction to coming off of caffeine. I personally do drink some organic coffee, not a lot. You know, my boyfriend drinks an entire pot of coffee every morning before 10 a.m. He has drank an entire pot of coffee. So that's going to be dreadful for him. I don't drink coffee every day. And when I stop drinking coffee for weeks at a time, I don't have that reaction. So it kind of depends on how you metabolize it. But there is sometimes some suffering. We call it Herxheimer reactions. That was named by the person who studied, you know, what the cleansing crisis is. When we start to have increased output, maybe some body systems get backed up. And usually you get backed up where you are weakest. When I was you know, long before I discovered detoxing, I don't have this happen anymore, but my whole life, my weak point was my lymph glands. And so if I got sick, what I tended to get was a lot of swollen glands right up here. Well, the more I learned, the more I realized my risk will be high because I've had swollen glands so much of my life. And that's the sort of the weak spot in my body. I better get the throughput figured out, or I will be at higher risk for lymphatic cancers. If I got cancer, that's the one I wouldn't be that surprised. Although with quite a few years of learning how to increase the output and break up those blockages and keep things going and shift my body to be more oxygenated and a little bit more alkaline, very, very powerful. And especially for those of us who are heading into midlife, learning these techniques and learning a little bit about how your body works. You don't have to be a doctor, and you don't have to be a PhD to figure out ways to shift your body into a better state. And you know what? Eating more, to your original question, eating more carbohydrates is part of it. And I know that's going to sound crazy to people who've been really indoctrinated by the diet industry, because in the last 5 years, I don't know if you are as frustrated and disturbed by this as I am, Ocean, but in the last 5 years, I've seen the trends in health and wellness, even among our colleagues who teach people how to eat, has gotten so far away from the body of evidence. There's such a massive body of evidence, and I know that your new book is coming out with a lot of that evidence. Your father's book, Food Revolution, is one of my early and most important influences, where I learned, or I read hundreds and hundreds of references proving that eating, and these are carbohydrate foods. If we do one thing today that would be really important and useful to you, is to stop being scared of carbohydrates, because fruits, vegetables, greens, legumes, whole grains, forget about the gluten. We could just talk about, if you want, we could just talk about the non-sprayed organic grains that don't have gluten in them, okay? Just to keep it really non-controversial. Nuts and seeds, I mean, these are high carbohydrate foods. And guess what? They're also the foods that sweep our digestive tract, okay? I cannot help you detoxify if we don't start with that 35 feet of intestines. It looks like this. Okay, it looks like this. In this room that I'm in, the room you're in, listeners, if you're hearing this, imagine that you're sitting in the room that you're sitting in. Look at it. Look at one side and look at the other. Your intestines go from one side to the other 3 times. If you're sitting in an average size room, that's how long your intestines are. You cannot put 70 to 80% animal fats and animal proteins in there without lots and lots of roughage and expect it to get to the other end, without putrefying and becoming something rather disgusting that now we have a bigger detoxifying problem. So just want to give a little plug for good whole foods carbohydrates. They should be most of our diet, and they are what drag our GI tract. And not just drag it with that insoluble fiber, but absorb toxins with the soluble fiber as well. Those are the foods that contain those fibers.
Yeah. And as well, so we pretty well, most of us know that fiber is important for elimination and being regular. But they also, certain fibers feed the good bacteria in our digestive tract. And those bacteria do a lot of the work of digestion for us. And they're actually food for the good guys that we need in order to thrive, in order to have our neurotransmitters produced that tell our brains that we're happy, that tell our brains that we're well and peaceful. The gut is like a second brain. And the bacteria in your gut are actually a bigger part of who you think yourself to be and experience yourself to be than you probably ever imagined. And what they need to thrive is fiber. So fiber is important. Less than 5% of the US population gets enough of it, and it's critical to our elimination and our detoxification process. And let's talk about foods more. You're speaking about the macronutrients and the food groups, but particularly, what are some of your favorite detoxifying foods, Robyn?
You know, greens. Greens are powerful. Almost no one gets enough of them. If we look at the creatures on Earth who share our DNA most closely, they're the primates. What do the primates eat all day, every day? So I have learned to absolutely love greens and a broad variety of them. And, you know, a modern invention that really helps us get a lot more greens in our diet easily, because most of us have a much narrower jaw than our grandparents did, because our mothers or grandmothers started feeding our parents Wonder Bread and even cutting the crusts off the Wonder Bread. For some reason, 2 generations ago, we started thinking that all of our food had to be really, really soft. Well, guess what? We've sort of collapsed our palate as a result of it. So guess what? Even though we now have third generation degeneration issue going on. We can massively increase that nutrient density and the amount of fiber we're getting with the modern invention of the turbo blender. So get yourself a good blender and then just throw all kinds of crazy stuff in there. So my favorite detoxifying foods are everything that you can throw into a blender and drink a quart. I sometimes drink a quart at a time. Sometimes I'll drink 2 quarts a day of green smoothie or green juice. I don't put fruits in my juices because I don't want to throw that fiber away. I think fruits are wonderful foods. Fruits are also highly detoxifying. Lots good to say about fruits, but I would prefer to blend them into a green smoothie or eat the whole fruit itself. Right now I'm obsessed with grapefruits. I've been eating like 2 grapefruits a day, and guess what? That's making my liver happy because it's bitter and it's going to stimulate good bile production. And most people have very low bile production, and the bile they do have is thick, and that's not what we want. So when my body is like wants me to eat 2 grapefruits a day, I think, I must need some bitters. So I throw some arugula in my blender too. So right after this, I'm going to go make my green smoothies that'll last me today and tomorrow. And I have sprouts in there. I sprout like little fenugreek and alfalfa, clover seeds. So I'll dump a bunch of sprouts in there that I just always have sprouting on the counter. And then when it sprouts enough that I don't want it to keep growing longer and longer tails, I stick it in the fridge. So there'll be some of that. And then whatever greens I have, right now I have spring mix and spinach and some beet greens. So I'll throw those in there. I like to keep rotating the greens, whatever, I just walk around in the produce section, and whatever's organic and whatever's in season, I buy it. I used to grow a ton of my greens when I was raising my kids. And then I'll throw in some of a turmeric root. You can buy them at a lot of grocery stores now. I just kind of scrape the outside off and throw some chunks of that in. I'll throw in some ginger root. I'll dump in some aloe vera, some organic aloe vera, and blend it up. And then I might add a cup or 2 of frozen organic mixed berries and a banana, and boom, that is the crux of my lunch and sometimes my dinner too.
Yeah, sounds delicious. Delicious for the taste buds and also delicious for your cells. Thanks, Robyn. We're getting a lot of questions, and we had a lot submitted in advance, and we're going to focus primarily on questions from Whole Life Club members. But I know they'll be of interest to everybody who's with us right now. Terry said, "My beloved father suffered from Alzheimer's. I worry for myself and my darling sons. What are the best foods and ways to detox harmful metals from our body?"
Okay, a lot of times, I don't usually go to supplements first, but if you are eating over time a consistently high fiber, nutrient dense diet, that's going to help your heavy metals levels. And there's a bunch of different mechanisms why. One of them is that you need all of those micronutrients, especially the 90 plus minerals and trace minerals, to optimize all of these organs that already are there to help us detoxify. But I really like, I don't always talk about supplements, but Zeolite is really useful, especially if you're going, okay, I'm going to drink a quart or 2 quarts of green smoothie a day. I'm going to do this cleanse, or I'm going to do the Green Smoothie Girl Detox. I know a lot of your fans, Ocean, at the Food Revolution Network are doing the detox with us right now. And as you do that, if you're kicking stuff up, I highly recommend you get on some Zeolite product. If you have reason to believe that you have a significant heavy metals issue, the heavy metals are like cadmium. If you live in a place where there's a lot of car pollution, where maybe you live in a city or above a train station or whatever, cadmium. There's aluminum. There's mercury from your toxic teeth issue that we were talking about earlier. Anybody who's ever had metal fillings has likely had some mercury bleeding into their brain, and over time. And vaccines have as adjuvants 2 different major heavy metals. So lots of different issues there. I like Zeolite because it's known to bind to those heavy metals and then safely remove them from the body. So food is part of the answer. I think we always want I want to caution people against this magical thinking of this one food will solve this problem. I need this food for that problem, and I'm seeing that on a macro level too. Like health and wellness authors and influencers are kind of falling into this. We need this specific fad diet for this disease, and we need that specific fad diet for that disease. I don't think that's accurate. I think we now have over 10,000 published studies showing that a mostly or all plant-based whole foods diet is preventative of and a good way to help shift the body's terrain to not be supportive of cancer and heart disease, not making claims that any specific diet will cure a disease, just saying it's now more than 10,000 published studies in favor of the very diet Food Revolution Network is teaching you. But zeolite is my main tip there for heavy metals.
And you said I want to get the spelling of it.
Zeolite, zeolite. It's
okay.
Just a boxy structure found in nature, and it has an affinity for some of the heavy metals, the ones that we tend to be highest in. I study this issue a lot. That's a whole other side tangent. I study this issue a lot because I've lived in some of the worst air quality in the U.S. for 33 years now. That's why I moved up here to Park City, to be up above the elevation where there's such bad air quality in Salt Lake City and Provo-Orem.
Yeah. And just to be clear, I know we said this at the beginning, but we're not offering medical advice. This is Robyn and I are sharing education and sharing what we've learned and what we've seen, and our best take on what might be helpful. But at the end of the day, you are the ultimate decision maker on your own health choices and path. And you should always consult with the resources, the healthcare practitioners that you trust and that you choose to entrust your health with on your path. And we totally support that. Robyn, we did have a question from Stephanie about root canal fillings. She said, I've had root canal fillings in my teeth. How can I keep myself toxic free? I know you've expressed concerns about the health impacts of root canals for someone who's had them. Any particular suggestions that might be beneficial?
Yeah, I have published on that subject of biological dentistry because there's now over 800 dentists in the United States who are opting out of the more toxic practices in dentistry, and they are using different materials, they're using different protocols, different procedures. And I've probably published more on that than almost anything besides, eating whole foods, plant-based diet. And you said root canal fillings. I'm going to assume you're talking about two different things because there's fillings and there's root canals.
Stephanie said I've had root canal filling, but we'll presume she means root canals at this point. Yeah.
Well then, so fillings, we talked a little bit about that, and there are not perfect, but much better filling materials that your dentist can use. But I highly recommend that you find a biological dentist in your area. If you go to a traditional dentist, he or she may not have figured out yet that the procedures that he's doing in his patient's mouth may be harming them, and maybe harming him too. Dentists are one of the sickest professions there is, like top 3 in terms of suicide, in terms of neurological disease. Their cancer risk is super high. They're right up there with like hairdressers and farmers. And what do hairdressers, farmers, and dentists have in common? High exposure to chemical toxicity, chemical and heavy metal toxicity. So, okay, root canals, I'll tell you what, I would love to tell you that there's a procedure that's slightly different that gives you your beautiful white teeth, that's a dead fossilized tooth in your mouth, that'll be fine. The problem with root canals is, and I won't go too far sideways on this, I will essentialize this, root canals have anywhere from a few 100,000 yards of dentin tubules, which bad bacteria can be inside and attached to 3 miles. Okay, I've heard different estimates, anywhere from a few 100,000 yards to 3 miles of dentin tubules in one tooth. And what they do to sterilize that tooth does not sterilize the tooth. Okay, those anaerobic organisms in the tooth are then trapped inside the tooth. But guess what? An antibiotic can't get in to kill all the bacteria. Ozone will do some good. So you can do a root canal and use ozone. That may help somewhat. But eventually, a lot of people will start to have autoimmune symptoms. Myself, I had 2 root canal teeth in the back. And because I was starting to get educated on the subject, when I broke out in a rash all over my torso about 6 or 7 years ago, would not go away. I also had a blister above my root canal tooth. My gut told me, and my education told me, I wonder if this horrible rash that I've had for months that itched, if it's related to this tooth, because this is evidence of my liver is not processing something very well. The skin is showing what's going on in the liver and the gut. And I thought, I need to get rid of these root canal teeth. And I got them pulled, and the rash disappeared and never came back. Now, that's just my story. But the bottom line is those anaerobic organisms, which are some of the most deadly pathogens known to man, can get out. You're not actually feeling in that dead organ, because a tooth is an organ. It is connected to the entire meridian. Dr. Thomas Rau, who is one of the most famous biological doctors in Europe and all of the world, has a chart of 100 breast cancer patients he studied, and virtually almost all of them, with just a few exceptions, their breast cancer was on the side where they had a root canal tooth. So there may be a connection there. There's others who have studied that connection. So I got mine pulled, rash disappeared. I eventually got a titanium implant on one of them. The other one I got a what's the non-metal, the ceramic. You can get, it's pretty expensive. Most, even biological dentists, don't know how to use it. It's not coming to me what this, it may not have heavy metals in it like titanium does, but I think you're probably pretty safe with a titanium implant. Anyways, that's your option, is pull the root canal tooth, put in a post, put a crown on, use less toxic or non-toxic materials there. That's what I did.
Yeah, thank you. Great. And of course, for some people, it may not be, it contributes to the toxic load. A lot of things do. And our body can handle a certain amount of that. Different bodies can handle different amounts of that. So we all have to decide where we want to prioritize, our exposure reduction and our cleansing capacities, so that we can really create the conditions for our bodies to thrive. We've had a question from Robyn, who said, she's asking about the best steps for detoxification. Is there a particular order, particularly within the context of a breast cancer situation? She's wondering how many organ systems to focus on, and what do you use to help detox in addition to food?
Well, with cancer and with other diseases, we really need to go in the order that the body needs to see the detoxification, so that we're not retoxing. Okay, so that we're opening up phase 1 pathways and then phase 2, and we're going in the order that the best detox researchers and clinicians have discovered. And so I take you through a process that starts with the GI tract. It starts with softening and eliminating the catarrhal mucoid plaque. Okay, you ask your regular medical doctor about catarrhal mucoid plaque, and likely he either doesn't know what it is or he'll mock it and say it doesn't exist. But Dr. Bernard Jensen, who's one of my heroes and one of the many detox practitioners that I studied for many, many years before developing my own protocol, actually documented the rubber-like catarrhal mucoid plaque that you could literally pick up with tongs. And he took photos of it in literally thousands of patients. He took 10,000 people through his protocol. He wasn't helping people on the internet like I am, so I've now taken more people through a detox than he did, but he was back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, I think 60s. And I would not have believed it had I not seen that junk come out of my own body when I was in my 20s and I did my first detox. And that's kind of what made me a believer. So remember that breast cancer, when you're talking about your body and decreasing the toxic load and rebuilding your immune system, which is what our goal is when we detoxify, it's not disease specific. I mean, there may be things that are contraindicated for a specific disease state or whatever, but remember, if you have breast cancer, it's the way your body manifested a collapse of your immune function. Okay, cancer isn't the tumor. Cancer is a fundamental failure of the immune system. And so our goal is really going to that rebuilding place, bringing the toxic level down, increasing the throughput, nurturing and nourishing the organs of elimination, the systems of elimination through understanding how they work. And so diet is part of it. There's also a bunch of protocols that we do. I'm sure Food Revolution Network can put you into our free video masterclass about that. And so what you want to do is you want to start with the GI tract, okay? All health starts in the gut. And again, you have 35 feet of gastrointestinal tract. If I had my cat here, I'd pick her up and I'd show you how in her body, I can't really show you her GI tract, but it goes from mouth to anus. It's almost a straight line, okay? She can eat meat all day long. She can do that, okay? It only has to go this far, but we just don't have that. And so we don't have you using any diuretics like coffee or alcohol allowed in the 26 days, okay? So we're dilating ducts. We are relaxing the smooth muscles of these various organ systems, and we are dragging that 35 feet of GI tract with very high oxygenating, alkalizing, high fiber plant foods. And so you should see more throughput there. Some bubbling and gurgling might be going on. We're kicking things up. But then we move on to kidneys, and then we move on to a gallbladder and kidney flush. And this will be super important for you. Most people have that, well, we all have thousands of ducts in our gallbladder and in our kidney, or I'm sorry, in our liver. And even if somebody has taken out your gallbladder, I mean, we're now lopping off like over 1 million gallbladders a year here in the United States. It's big business. You needed that. You needed it to metabolize fat. So you still want to do that gallbladder and liver flush because there are thousands of ducts, and the process brings forward a lot of these little crystalline structures that are getting in the way of healthy bile production and flow, and getting and causing risk for kidney stones. And anybody who's ever experienced one, I hear it's a nightmare. I hear it's worse than childbirth. So we're cleaning them out. I mean, people see hundreds of little crystalline structures come out in this flush. And so that's kind of the process. If I boil it down to what we teach you in 26 days and a 200-page manual, but we don't really want you to do it one time. We want you to do it one time so that you then understand how powerful it is. And we really want you to do it twice a year. That's what turned my life around. Changing my diet to be what Food Revolution Network teaches, a whole foods diet, but also twice a year paying a lot of attention to optimizing that output. So breast cancer, I would, we're not going to give medical advice, and I can't get outside my scope and say for breast cancer, you should do this, and for that, you should do that. However, I do want you to be aware that breast cancer is your immune system fell down. We have to pick it up. We got to pick it up and dust it off and love it. And it's not about fighting cancer. It's about nurturing and loving your body back to the place where it was when it was fighting the cancer. We're all fighting cancer. Ocean has cancer cells. Every day, his body is producing cancer cells. That's normal. It's normal to have candida in your body. It's normal to have strep and staph in your body. We all have them. When does it get the upper hand? That's when your immune system has failed you. So guess what? The good news is you're still above ground, so we can rebuild that immune system. People do it all the time. It is possible. Your body is miraculous, and it does have the ability.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. We heard from let's see, Alyssa about water, and we haven't talked much about water, but it's obviously one of the places where it's critical to detoxification. It literally washes through us and helps to cleanse us. But also sometimes it carries some toxins along the way from our polluted world. So for those of us who want water filters, which are a really good idea, so that you're not dependent on bottled water, which has its own plastic contamination, and you're not dependent on municipal water, which, because it's traveling through pipes and goes through long distances, has to be chlorinated generally, and also picks up some toxins along the way. It's really nice to be able to have a good, clean source of water. Alyssa was asking about your opinion of the Berkey water filter. But in general, what do you think is important in a water filter? And we've got a lot of questions we want to get to, so let's be succinct here.
Yep.
Any high-level thoughts on water?
I think the main thing is you do need to filter your water. If you're on city water, if you have chlorine and fluoride, they're interrupting your normal hormone functions. Can't be drinking chlorinated, fluoridated water. It's so I like Berkey. I like Aqua True. I'm sure Ocean can tell you what his favorite water filtrations are. I have an alkaline water system on my sink. It's kind of the Cadillac in that it cleans out the pollutants. Okay, so it gets it as clean as RO water it does, and then it flows through coral calcium to pick those minerals back up, and then it becomes alkaline. Because I just feel great when I drink slightly alkaline water. We are none of us escaping the acids in our environment and in our food. That was never there before. This was just not how we drank water before. So clean water is the most important. You can take it to another level and you can make it alkaline, but the most important thing, the thing I care about most, is make sure you're filtering your water in some way. You buy those gallon plastic jugs of spring water, there's lots of evidence that it's not even clean water. It's
Right.
water, but it's not clean water. So at least if you're going to buy filtered water, if that's the only thing you can do right now, rather than invest in a system. I mean, the Aqua True, and I'm sure Ocean can give you a link to it, sits on top of your counter. It's pretty inexpensive. Berkey, same thing. So, you can go all the way from having it installed on your sink if you're super committed and way down the path like I am. And I'd rather spend my money on stuff like that than fancy clothes or a big house. Those are just more important things to me. Or a countertop that's only a few $100s. Or if you're buying water, then buy reverse osmosis or distilled at least. That's sort of the basics.
Yeah. And for those who are interested in the Aqua True, which is the most economical for the quality of water it produces, we actually have a special discount arranged with them for Food Revolution members. If you go to foodrevolution.org/water, again, that's foodrevolution.org/water, you can take advantage of that. We had a couple questions from Adriana and Sherry saying they don't want to lose weight, but they want to detox. Is it possible to detox, to do a cleansing kind of program without losing weight? And Adriana also said, where will my body get the energy to work out? And is there a loss of energy during the detoxification process?
Well, I'm going to have to speak to the Green Smoothie Girl Detox, which is our 26-day protocol, just because that's where all my research has been in the last 6 years since we started taking people through this process. And you can do it without losing lots of weight. Even if you are at your ideal weight or even a little bit underweight, you probably will lose a few pounds. But what we find is that as you are correcting imbalances, and especially if you're underweight and you struggle to put weight on, the thing that people don't understand who are overweight, they'll say, oh, I wish I was you. You eat everything in sight and you don't gain weight. And when I meet these people, I know, it's not like I say this in a social setting, but that's the flip side of the same coin. We have lots of very thin people who cannot gain weight because their gut is diseased. They cannot even absorb nutrition. And that's a problem on many, many levels. And so don't be jealous of the skinny people who can't gain weight. They need to detoxify just as much as folks who want to lose weight do. So we have a very extensive FAQ for the things that people ask us. And one of the questions is, how can I avoid losing weight? So my health coaches one of my health coaches is doing the detox for the 17th time right now as we speak. She's in North Carolina and she's amazing. Another one, she's done it probably 8 times, and these are the coaches who answer your very detailed questions as you go through. They will help you lose the least amount of weight possible. But what we find is that when the gut is balanced and when you clean out the liver, that you can find your ideal weight, whether you're too high right now or you're too low. We need to address the imbalances in the gut and in our overall health before we can really achieve that ideal weight status.
Yeah.
Oh, and there was another question. So and where will I find the energy to work out? I will say this about that second question you asked. I'm a competitive athlete. I play tennis competitively. I ski this time of year. I'm skiing 2 or 3 times a week. I run. I do hot yoga probably every 3rd day. And when I am detoxing, I do less. Endurance athletes, I would recommend you not do the detox while insisting on going out and running 10 and 15 miles a day, because your body is going to recognize all these amazing, perfect raw materials coming in, and your body knows what to do with it. And so there's going to be an energy draw on cleaning house. All of a sudden your body goes, oh my gosh, she's putting good stuff in here. Let's start sweeping. Let's start cleaning, because we don't know when she's going to start dumping the garbage back in here. So we better hurry. And so your body starts doing all this good work. You may not have as much energy for your 10-mile run if you're training for a marathon. So for the hardcore athletes, I would say do less, be willing to listen to your body. Sometimes I do the detox and I go out and I want to run 10 miles instead of 5. Sometimes I feel amazing, but you do have to respect whatever is going on in your body. And if you have lower energy, you got to know that that's probably the body telling you, I'm doing some really important work here. Would you just let me do it, please?
Yeah. We got 2 interesting questions about hair, so I'll tie them together. Liz asked, what about hairsprays and hair coloring? Deborah said, when eating a whole foods diet, could that cause thinning hair?
If your hair is thinning, it's not caused by a whole foods diet. If your hair is thinning, it's most likely, and you need to go get some testing done by a probably a thyroid specialist. Get a functional medicine doctor who can test you and do a full blood panel for your entire range of hormones. Okay, what your average endocrinologist or general practitioner is going to do, your standard of care doctors, the ones that bill your insurance and are not holistic at all, they're just kind of doing the drugs and surgery thing. Those guys will test like your T3, your free T4. They'll do like one test and it's not showing the whole range. You need to get a bioidentical hormone specialist, find out if they are specialists in bioidentical hormone, or another way that they put it is natural hormone treatment. If they are specialists that way, and a lot of these people are nurse practitioners, some of them are MDs, but I find that a lot of the MDs are hanging out a shingle these days, and all they're going to do is they're going to give you bioidentical thyroid, but they're not going to do the whole range of testing. They don't know how to look at those tests and look at all the precursor hormones. So bottom line is, if your hair is thinning, I would be wondering about a thyroid issue. I mean, thyroid issues are an epidemic, and it is related to exactly what we're talking about, so much chemical toxicity. Your thyroid is this little guy who is more impacted by chemical toxins than anything else in your body, and it regulates your metabolism. Among other things, it regulates your metabolism. So in addition to doing a comprehensive detox, like our protocol, I'd also say make sure you get the whole gamut of the full blood panel. Say, I want a full blood panel. They may want to test hair and urine for some other things. Okay, get a good bioidentical hormone specialist. And then the other question was, if the hair is thinning, is it related to eating whole foods? And what was the other one, Ocean?
Hairsprays and hair coloring. And are there toxins in there that we should be concerned about?
Yeah. I gave up hairspray many, many years ago. Haven't given up dyeing my hair. This is I have no tips for you when it comes to dyeing your hair blonde. If you're into the blonde, I just tell her to keep it off the roots, and I only do my blonde every 3rd time I go in to get my hair done. There's plenty of options for your hair to go dark. So if you're willing to go dark, and if you're trying to avoid the gray, ladies who are older and getting the gray hair, if you want to cover the gray, there's plenty of far better, more natural options for dyeing your hair if you're willing to avoid the blonde, the bleaching. So for me, I'm just like, hey, don't get it on my scalp. That's not ideal, but the hairspray, it's got to go. The nail polish has got to go. You can get 5 free or 10 free nail polish, which eliminates the 5 most toxic ingredients in nail polish, or 10 free is the 10 most toxic ingredients in nail polish. I grow my own fairly long fingernails, and I don't put polish on it anymore, because I don't even want the 10 free. It's not like you're painting broccoli on there, right? It's still got a bunch of chemicals, and I don't know what they do, and I don't want them. But the hairspray's got to go.
Yeah.
There's probably some healthier hairsprays, but I don't use it anymore, so I don't know what they are.
Yeah. Thanks, Robyn. And there are also like leave-in conditioners and things that can help, give hair body and stuff that may be less toxic than the aerosol sprays too. And they're also, the sprays get into the air, which means you're likely to breathe them in too, whereas with leave-in conditioners, not necessarily so much. Robyn, we are nearly out of time, but I want to try and buzz through a few quick questions. Gail's asking about the effect of wine on the gut biome. She's asking about drinking an occasional glass of wine. Do you have an opinion on that?
I drink it too. I probably shouldn't, but I really like it. Gave up sugar, gave up fried foods, gave up processed foods. That's my weakness too. The thing I would look for with wine, if I go to a restaurant, I ask for, do they have any French red? Um, you're likely to not get the glyphosate. I'm more worried about the glyphosate than I am about it's fairly low sugar content in wine. So let me just tell you about this about wine because you want to go fast with these questions. But white wine has more sugar, red wine has lower sugars, but white wine has lower sulfites. And so I don't order American wines. They are so full of sulfites, which are going to give you the headaches and also are very toxic, but also so much glyphosate or Roundup in wine. So I like French wines the best. If I can't get a French wine, I'll order one from Europe. And if I have to go to American wine, I just skip it. I won't drink American wine.
Yeah.
But,
And of course, organic can be safer from the glyphosate perspective and from the
yes.
sulfite perspective.
Yep.
And yeah, red wines also have more resveratrol, which is
Yeah.
beneficial for us. Although you also get it from red grape juice, and then you don't get the alcohol. So
yeah, I'm sure it's the wine industry that brought us the news that resveratrol is so good for us in wine. But you can also take your bottle of organic red. So when I have a party at my house, or if I drink wine at my house, which isn't very often, I only buy organic. Biodynamic from Europe is even better than organic. We won't go far down that road, but you can take your own bottle of red to a restaurant and pay a corking fee in most restaurants.
Yeah. Thank you. Robyn said that she's deaf and her eyes are very important to her. She's experiencing dry eyes and uncomfortable feelings in seeing things such as blurry letters, words, and she is wondering if there are any detoxing she could do that might help her eyes.
Yeah, for sure, give it a try because detoxing isn't going to hurt you. It's only going to benefit you in many, many ways. But we can't get outside of our scope and talk about very specific conditions and say, if you do the detox, this condition will reverse or this disease will reverse. We would get in trouble for doing that. We want to stay in our scope and just remind you that your vision and hearing systems are connected to all your other systems. And so we are really looking at the body holistically. I certainly hope that it would help you.
Yeah, thank you. So we're nearing the end of our time. I want to say for everybody who has been inspired by Robyn's work and is interested in joining in her free online masterclass, where you can go deeper with this. And then from there, if you want to, you can also have an opportunity to take a 26-day journey with her. You can go to foodrevolution.org/Robyn, ROBYN, detox 18. Again, that's foodrevolution.org/Robyn Detox 18. If you click on that link, you can jump right in and participate in that. And as we're nearing the end of our time here, I want to thank you again, Robyn. And in a moment, I'm going to introduce a Whole Life Club and let you all know a little bit about it. We're not going to talk about it a whole bunch today because I think a lot of our members have been hearing about it. And a lot of people who are with us right now are already part of it. Congratulations to you. But before we jump into that, let me just say, Robyn, are there any final words you want to share with us about detoxification, cleansing, and what we might want to bear in mind as we enter this new year?
I mostly just want to congratulate anybody who's watching this because you're on such a good path. I'm so glad you're here rather than in the latest ketogenic diet community, because this is where it's at, is increasing. It's incremental as improvement. You don't have to go all the way and be an overnight vegan. Ocean and I have talked about this before, that we just want to help people eat more plants because they are the fountain of life if we have one. They are the holy grail if we have one in health and wellness and nutrition. And so eating more of them and discovering more ways to eat whole foods, plant-based whole foods more easily will benefit your life. You're already well on the way. So congratulations on educating yourself. You're already well ahead of so much of America. The vast majority of America is completely oblivious to the information that you've totally plugged yourself into here. So after you get this information, make sure you share it with others. Be a force for good, an influence for good. And any recipe that you pick up, you share it with someone else. You are doing a tremendous amount of good in the world, like the Robyn's family is. So thank you for letting me be here with you today.
And thank you for your beautiful work, for being on the integrity of your own journey and then sharing what you learn with so many other people. There are literally thousands upon thousands of people right now who have health, vitality, mental clarity, perhaps even their lives, because of the work that you've done and the way that it's touched them. There are kids that haven't lost their parents. There are people that haven't lost their spouses. There are people that haven't lost their health, and their lives. Grateful for it, Robyn. I thank you for that. And I thank you for being such an honest, real human on the journey. Some people come off like experts who know answers to everything. You are a person, a companion, a student of life who is curious and always learning and always discovering, and then paying it forward and sharing everything you learn with everyone you possibly can. And I thank you for that. And I know our participants, all of us here today, do as well. So in a moment, we're going to let Robyn go, and I'll share a little bit more about Whole Life Club. But before we do that, I just want to say again, Robyn, thank you. All right. So now for those of you who are with us right now and are interested in taking this further and putting it all into action, I want to tell you a little bit about Whole Life Club and how it works and what might be in it for you. This is a membership program we developed in Food Revolution Network because we've seen so many people who get inspired, they get passionate, they get motivated, and then over time, they fall off the wagon. They aren't able to sustain it. And what we all know is that at the end of the day, cancer, dementia, heart disease, diabetes, they don't care a heck of a lot how much you know, how many webinars you participate in or classes, or how many books you read, but they do care what you eat and how you live. And so we designed Whole Life Club to help you stay on the track and get the results that you want day in and day out. So we combine recipes. Every week you get 5 more fabulous Whole Foods chef created plant-based recipes, wisdom, where you get to participate in monthly action hours like this and ask your questions, and also be a part of an ongoing circle of wisdom. We share action of the week videos. Every week I shoot a new one with a simple short video with a step you can take to get results. We have weekly action checklists to help you put it all into action and get results in your life, plus community. And I think this is the most powerful part of all. I don't know if you've ever felt lonely or isolated or alone, or like you wanted kindred spirits or peers to lift you up, to catch you when you fall, to support you, to celebrate your victories, to bounce ideas off of you, to share favorite recipes and tips and tools. But Whole Life Club creates a mechanism where you can come together with kindred spirits and build community and share relationships and share partnership and share struggles and share dreams and share breakthroughs with peers. And we have an incredible conversation going on every single day in Whole Life Club. Reading it sometimes brings me to tears because so many people are sharing their real issues, their real challenges, their real breakthroughs. So if you want a sense of belonging and a sense of partnership, then Whole Life Club's an amazing resource. So again, there's recipes, there's ongoing, steady, continuous, practical wisdom, and there's community. And Whole Life Club is about getting the results, not just today, not just this month, but for the long term. So as we enter this new year, if you're not already a member, and I congratulate everybody who's already taken this step, there are thousands of people in the club right now. But if you're not already a member, I want to invite you to join us, to join this movement, and to give yourself the gift of this incredible resource to help you sustain and thrive, not just now, but for the long term. It's about your whole life. And WHOLE is an acronym, by the way. It stands for welcoming, healthy, organic lifestyle empowerment. We created this for you and for everybody who wants to uplift their health and be a part of a thriving, vibrant, fabulous community of peers. So right now, today, there's a special discount price. It's only available today for the rest of the day. Then it'll go back to the regular price. The regular price is $29 a month or $247 a year. But right now, today specifically, if you sign up before midnight tonight, you can join in for just $19 a month or $147 a year if you join in for the annual price. That's a big savings. And that's our way of trying to help you to take this next step. Because you're here right now and you're engaged right now, we want to invite you to join us and take the next step with us for this special limited time offer. So that's a bit about Whole Life Club. And we'd be thrilled to have you with us. And whether or not you join Whole Life Club, I want to thank you again for your partnership in this food revolution, for your time, for your attention, for your interest in learning about how you can thrive. Because we know that we have a medical industry that for the most part acts like food and prevention were side notes. They didn't really matter. And we've got a food industry that for the most part acts like health. It didn't really matter. And in that context, it's up to each of us to get informed, to get empowered, and to put what we learn into action. So I thank you so much for your learning, for your partnership in this movement, and for your action. I wish you an absolutely beautiful day and an absolutely beautiful new year. And I thank you so much for joining us today. Blessings, blessings, blessings to you and your family and your loved ones. Have a beautiful Saturday. And thank you again.